Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Jennifer, James, and thank you to one and all of you here today for your time this morning. What we'd like to talk about now is some market research we've recently undertaken and the idea of whether or not the recent development of the dining out market in Saudi Arabia is really what Saudi consumers want. And for those of you that can't handle the anticipation, the short answer is yes and no. So a little bit of background. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't paint a bit of a picture about who we are and what we do. Keane was founded about 30 years ago. We opened our office in the region around about 20 years ago. You can see some of the evolution there. We've just rebranded now. We are all consult and create, which really neatly encapsulates a lot of the key disciplines that we support our clients with. So you can see here for yourselves all of those key facets that we support with. Couple of the numbers involved: 16 master planning projects, 7 F&B master planning projects, 200 strategy projects, and over 500 concepts created throughout the region. We are very busy at the moment working on one particular project within the kingdom, but unfortunately I can't tell you anything about it. Moving on to the research itself, probing the certainties and some of these uncertainties, the surge, which we will talk about, some headline elements, the real distinction between fine and casual dining as we see it. Some investment opportunities. We're an investment forum after all. We also believe something very interesting is stirring within the market, something under the surface that we'll try and get some insight into shortly, and also a bit about the future as well. So the good news, as I'm sure you're all aware, great. So we polled a number of consumers in Saudi on 2 or 3 occasions recently, about 1,000 consumers each time. 60% will be dining out at least once a week. That's fantastic. An even bigger number, 70% of residents will either increase or retain the frequency of dining out. And an even bigger number than that is that 85% of consumers that we spoke to agreed that the quality of restaurants in Riyadh, Jeddah, and the other major cities within the kingdom had improved in the last 3 years, and everybody's loved it. We've seen the media has picked up on all of this, lots of shiny headlines talking, as you can see, up here, 26 exciting new venues, all of this, but really predominantly focusing on the higher end, when nobody really talks about what goes on. And actually, pleasingly, some of our researchers aligned with what Simon was talking about, the growth in QSR, the growth in fast casual, the growth in family casual. You can see from the graph on the far left that value of that market has almost tripled in the last 6 years, but it doesn't seem to garner a lot of the headlines that the fine dining offers do. Put that in even more perspective from a overall food service market in Saudi point of view, 98% of it is fast casual, casual family dining, only 2% is high-end dining. Why is that? And we also found that within our research, 75% of consumers in Saudi Arabia wanted more international branded offers. They wanted more international casual offers. And we can see from the graphic on the left that there is still a significant amount of headroom for that fast casual and casual market to grow in the kingdom versus what's currently in the UAE at about 97 QSRs per million of the population. Driven by 4 decades of the international brands that have been here. We worked out that you need to be about 45 years old in the kingdom now to have known a market that doesn't have these international brands in. So from an investment point of view here, we know that Vision 2030 really is encouraging the exporting of Saudi brands, of Saudi intellectual capital, exporting it to the world. Currently, a lot of it's inbound. From a benchmark point of view, traditional Levantine cuisine has gone global, excuse me, but Khaliji cuisine has certainly lagged behind. We believe there's a great deal of work to do around Saudi-owned concepts, modern Saudi cuisine and Saudi-owned. It's growing from a very, very small base, but what does that mean? Why is the gap there? Where is the Saudi equivalent of a fast casual brand such as Nando's or Chipotle or Leon or Pret? They just don't exist at the moment, hence the reason why all of this IP is being imported. One interesting thing that came up, though, was only 12% of Saudis that we spoke to wanted more homegrown offers, which is odd, we thought, given that some of the brands like, and they don't get the headlines, Al Baik and Kudu, even when they were polled alongside international offers, were Saudi's favorite brands, first and second, irrespective of income bracket. So we believe that there is definitely loyalty and affection for Saudi homegrown brands. They're just not especially well represented yet. Whether the prevalence isn't there, whether the trust isn't there, we're not entirely sure. But Saudis just can't visualize what homegrown offers look like yet. But we also know from some market research we did at the end of last year that the Saudi entrepreneurial spirit is very, very strong, that 53% of Saudi consumers saw themselves investing in F&B in the next 5 years, it's got to be 10 times a factor of any other country in the world. So this entrepreneurial spirit, we believe, has been emboldened by a lot of the softer successes that Saudi has had in the last few months, beating Argentina in the football, for example, or Ronaldo, or potentially his arch nemesis Messi also coming as well, that this has emboldened the entrepreneurial spirit of that very young, very dynamic Saudi population. Question for Stefan and the panel then, where are Saudi entrepreneurs investing in F&B in the future? I can't answer that, that's one for them. Talking about the future, we genuinely believe that it's already here, that a lot of the race is run. Simon talked about potentially the almost oversaturation of high-end dining, particularly in Riyadh at the moment. Is that already over? In mature markets, we see that after the brands and those international offers, almost always comes that local appetite for local and homegrown offers. Is that what the future is going to be for Saudi? So looking at those homegrown offers, 12 cups, 500,000 cups, Social Kitchen in Jeddah, one of my favorite restaurants, Kuru, Al Baik, Boga, etc. These are all high-quality homegrown offers with the potential to scale. But is the gap in the quality of the intellectual property that doesn't enable them to scale properly? One other very interesting thing we looked at as well was the idea of new Saudi cuisine. What does that mean at the moment? And when we look at a market, for example, like Mecca, which is genuinely driven by ultimately the immigrant population. If you consider that for decades, for centuries, Mecca has been settled in by immigrants from all over the world that have traveled there. They've brought influences, cuisine, equipment, techniques, recipes, etc. It's a very, very fascinating market, but nobody really talks about the importance of it or the opportunity to develop an idea like new Saudi cuisine using Mecca as a genesis for that. Part of Vision 2030 as well, we know that the importance of a transition to healthier dining habits, we could all use it, I'm sure. Boga, for example, 16 venues now, and that's growing. So there is an appetite for, forgive the pun, for those healthier types of offers. And we know that, as I mentioned, this genuine loyalty towards well-represented homegrown offers, but there are just too few of them at the moment. So that being said, as I mentioned, the future is probably already here. International brands have worked for Dubai and the GCC. They come with this kind of ready-made, plug-and-play bucket of intellectual property that you can give to your operations team, and they just plug it in. Fantastic. But what is the future looking like for Saudi Arabia in that context? If you look at the UAE, for example, it's overwhelming expatriate population versus a much younger, much more local population in Saudi. So, frankly, in Saudi, the expats will not have the opportunity to call the shots in the same way that they did in the Dubai market. Much more driven by what the Saudi market wants and much more driven by what that local population is looking for as well. Young, driven, and aspirational with an appetite for F&B investments. So the question for the panel, quite naturally then, is will KSA follow other markets or carve out its own unique path of growth? Over to Stefan. Thank you very much.